The Navy SEAL's hand went limp in hers. His eyes rolled back. Blood pooled beneath him faster than she could stop it. "No." Sarah pressed harder on the wound. "Don't you die on me." Her German shepherd barked frantically, pressing his body against the stranger's legs, refusing to let him go. 3 bullets, 1 pregnant woman, a blizzard sealing them in. She had dragged him from the snow because her dog wouldn't stop howling. Now she was watching him fade, and somewhere in the darkness outside, the men who shot him were coming to finish the job. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from. And if this story moves you, hit subscribe so you never miss another tale of loyalty, courage, and heart. Your support truly means the world. Now let's begin. Cole Mitchell had made peace with death 3 times in his life. The first was in Kandahar, bleeding out behind a mud wall while his team fought to reach him. The second was in a shipping container off the coast of Yemen, listening to his oxygen tank hiss empty. The third was now crawling through a Colorado blizzard with bullets lodged against his spine. He had stopped feeling his legs 20 minutes ago. "Keep moving," he whispered to himself. "Keep moving." His fingers clawed at the frozen ground, dragging his body forward, inches at a time. The snow was relentless, erasing his blood trail almost as fast as he left it. Behind him, flashlight beams cut through the trees. 4 men, maybe 5. Professional. Patient. They knew he couldn't run forever. Cole's hand found the flash drive in his jacket pocket. Still there. Still intact. 200 names. Bank accounts in 3 countries. Jeep's coordinates of holding facilities where children waited in cages for buyers who would never see them as human. Captain Raymond Vance had built his empire in shadows for 10 years. And Cole had torn it all down in 1 night. Now Vance's men were going to make him pay. Sarah Morgan hadn't slept in 36 hours. She sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug of cold coffee, staring at the numbers that refused to change. Property taxes. Medical bills from Daniel's funeral that insurance wouldn't cover. A notice from the bank, stamped in red letters she couldn't bring herself to read. Her hand moved instinctively to her belly. 7 months. The baby kicked against her palm, strong and insistent, as if reminding her that survival wasn't optional anymore. "I know," she whispered. "I know." Shadow lifted his head from his bed by the wood stove. His amber eyes tracked her movement, reading her the way he'd once read enemy combatants in Helmand Province, 8 years old now, graying around the muzzle, but still sharp, still ready. "We're fine, boy," Sarah said, though they both knew it was a lie. Shadow's ears rotated toward the door. He didn't move, but his body tensed, muscles coiling beneath his scarred coat. "What is it?" Shadow rose slowly, favoring his left hip, where the shrapnel had never fully healed. He padded toward the door and stopped head low, a growl building in his throat. Sarah's hand found the rifle before she finished standing. Daniel's rifle. He had cleaned it the morning he died, left it leaning against the wall, like he always did, like he'd be back to put it away himself. She had never moved it. "Easy," she whispered. "Easy." Shadow's growl deepened. Then he barked, sharp, urgent, a sound she hadn't heard since his working days. Sarah pulled back the curtain. Nothing but white. Snow swirling in sheets so thick she couldn't see the tree line. Shadow scratched at the door, whining now, his entire body trembling with purpose. Shadow, no. But she was already reaching for her coat. The cold hit her like a fist. Sarah pulled her hood-tight rifle slung across her back, one hand gripping Shadow's harness. The German shepherd lunged forward, nearly pulling her off her feet. "Slow down!" Shadow ignored her. His nose cut through the air, locked onto something she couldn't see. Sarah had trained with him for 2 years. She knew every signal, every behavior, every subtle shift in his posture. Right now, he was alerting harder than he ever had on a real search. "What did you find, boy?" They reached the ravine edge in minutes. Shadow stopped so suddenly that Sarah stumbled into him. He stood rigid, tail straight, head angled down toward the darkness below. Sarah pulled out her flashlight and swept the beam across the snow. Her breath stopped. A man lay face down 15 feet below his body, twisted against a fallen log. Dark stains spread beneath him, black against the white. He wasn't moving. Sarah's training took over before her fear could catch up. She scrambled down the slope, boots sliding one hand on the rocks to steady herself. Shadow followed, sure-footed, despite his age, never letting the man out of his sight. She reached him and dropped to her knees. Sir, can you hear me?" No response. Sarah rolled him onto his back. Her hands came away red and warm. The man's face was pale beneath a dark beard, his lips blue with cold. His eyes were closed, but his chest rose and fell in shallow, ragged gasps. Young, maybe mid-30s, strong build beneath civilian clothes that were torn and soaked with blood. Sarah's fingers found his neck, pulse thready but present. "Stay with me," she said. "Stay with me." She pulled open his jacket, looking for the source of the bleeding. Her flashlight caught the tactical vest beneath his sweater, the kind military contractors wore. Her hands froze on a bullet hole just above his right hip. "God," she breathed. She found 2 more. One in his lower back, one in his side. All 3 still bleeding. All 3 potentially fatal, without immediate surgery. Sarah looked up at the snow falling around her, at the darkness pressing in from every direction. The nearest hospital was 40 miles away. In this storm, the roads would be impassable. This man was going to die unless she did something impossible. "Hey!" Sarah grabbed his face with both hands. "Hey, open your eyes." "Nothing. Shadow hold." The German shepherd positioned himself at the man's head, his body blocking the wind, his warmth radiating into the frozen air. Sarah pressed her ear to the man's chest. Heart still beating. Lungs still working. "But for how long? You're not dying out here," she said through gritted teeth. "Not tonight. Not on my mountain." She grabbed him under the arms and pulled. He was heavier than he looked, solid muscle beneath the blood-soaked clothes. Sarah grunted her back, screaming her pregnant belly, making every movement awkward and dangerous. "Come on, come on." Inch by inch, she dragged him toward the slope. Shadow circled them alert for threats, occasionally grabbing the man's jacket in his teeth and pulling when Sarah's strength faltered. It took 20 minutes to get him up the ravine. 20 minutes of sweat and desperation and prayers Sarah hadn't spoken since the day they told her Daniel wasn't coming home. By the time she reached the cabin, her arms were shaking so badly she could barely grip the door handle. "Inside. Go." Shadow pushed through first, checking corners by instinct. Sarah dragged the man across the threshold and kicked the door shut behind them. The warmth hit her like a wave, making her head swim. She lowered him to the floor as gently as she could and collapsed beside him, gasping for breath. For a moment, she just sat there, staring at the bloody stranger bleeding out on her living room floor. "What did you get yourself into?" she whispered. The man's eyes opened. Sarah scrambled backward, hand flying to the rifle still slung across her back. She had it up and aimed before her next breath. "Don't move." The man's eyes struggled to focus. They were blue, she noticed. Pale blue, like winter ice. Right now they were clouded with pain and confusion, But beneath that, she saw something else. Training. Discipline. The instant calculation of a man who had faced threats before. "Who are you?" Sarah demanded. His lips moved. No sound came out. "I said, who are you?" "Navy." He coughed, and blood flecked his lips. "Navy SEAL." Sarah didn't lower the rifle. "Yeah, prove it." The man's hand moved slowly toward his chest. Sarah's finger tightened on the trigger. "Easy," he rasped. "Dog tags, inside pocket. Don't move your hands." "I'm not going to hurt you." His voice was barely a whisper. "You just saved my life." Sarah held his gaze for a long moment. Shadow had positioned himself between them, but his posture was wrong. No hackles raised, no protective stance toward Sarah. Instead, he was watching the man with an intensity she hadn't seen in years. Sarah reached into the man's jacket herself. Her fingers found the chain, pulled it free. Mitchell Cole, R05. Commander, Navy Special Warfare. Blood type, religious preference, serial number. Sarah looked from the tags to his face. "Commander Mitchell." "Cole." He tried to smile. It came out as a grimace. "Just Cole. Cole, you have 3 bullets in you. I need to stop the bleeding or you're going to die." "I know. I was a combat medic. 4 years. I can help you, but I need you to trust me." Cole's eyes closed. For a moment, she thought she'd lost him. Then, "You already dragged me up a mountain. Think I trust you." Sarah set the rifle aside. "Don't make me regret it." She worked by lamplight, her medical kit spread across the floor. The skills came back to her like muscle memory assessment triage intervention. Daniel used to joke that she could perform surgery in a sandstorm with nothing but a pocket knife and sheer determination. Daniel. Sarah pushed the thought away. Not now. "This is going to hurt," she told Cole. "I don't have much for the pain. Done this before." His jaw was clenched so tight she could see the muscles jumping. "Just do it." She poured alcohol into the first wound. Cole's body went rigid, but he didn't scream, didn't even groan, just breathed through his teeth, steady and controlled. "The one in your back missed your spine by less than an inch," Sarah said, working as she talked. "You're lucky." "Doesn't feel lucky. The one in your hip is the problem. Bullet's still in there. If I don't get it out, you'll bleed to death internally." "So get it out." Sarah looked at him. "I don't have surgical equipment. I have a first aid kit and some veterinary supplies I keep for Shadow." "Are the veterinary forceps sterile?" "Yes." "Then use them." Sarah hesitated. The last time she'd extracted a bullet was 7 years ago in a forward operating base in Afghanistan. She'd had real equipment, real support, real options if something went wrong. Now she had a pregnant belly shaking hands and a stranger who might die on her floor anyway. "If I nick an artery, you're gone," she said. Cole's eyes met hers. Clear now. Present. "If you don't try, I'm gone anyway." Shadow whined softly. He had pressed himself against Cole's side, his head resting on the man's chest, providing warmth and comfort the way he used to with wounded soldiers. Sarah looked at her dog, then back at Cole. "Bite down on this." She handed him a rolled leather strap. "And for God's sake, don't move." The next 40 minutes were the longest of her life. Sarah worked with excruciating care. The forceps slippery with blood, the bullet lodged deep in muscle tissue that fought her at every turn. Cole's body shook with suppressed agony, but he stayed still. Perfectly still. Only his breathing changed, becoming more shallow, as shock crept closer. "Stay with me," Sarah ordered. "Talk to me." "About what? Anything. Your unit, your family, I don't care. Just stay conscious." Cole was silent for a moment. Then, daughter. Her name's Lily. How old? 7. His voice cracked. Haven't seen her 3 years. Sarah's hands faltered. She knew that pain. The specific, suffocating weight of loving someone you couldn't protect. Why not? Couldn't be safe. My job, the things I know. He sucked in a breath as Sarah probed deeper. If they knew about her, they'd use her. Who would use her? The forceps touched metal. Sarah held her breath. People who hurt children, Cole whispered. That's why I ran. Sarah twisted the forceps, got a grip on the bullet, and pulled. Cole's body convulsed. A sound escaped him, raw, animal, barely human. Then the bullet came free, clattering to the floor in a splash of blood. Got it. Sarah pressed gauze against the wound, her hands shaking violently now. I got it. Cole's eyes had rolled back. His breathing was too shallow, too fast. Cole! Cole! Shadow barked. Once, twice. His nose pressed against Cole's neck, checking for pulse. Don't you dare, Sarah hissed. Don't you dare die on me! She worked faster, packing the wound, applying pressure, reaching for the sutures. The bleeding slowed, then stopped. Cole's breathing steadied. Sarah sat back on her heels, tears streaming down her face, hands covered in a stranger's blood. Shadow, she whispered. What did we just do? The German shepherd looked at her with those ancient amber eyes. Then he laid his head back on Cole's chest, and Sarah could have sworn she saw something like peace in his expression. She didn't sleep. She sat in the chair by the fire rifle across her lap, watching Cole's chest rise and fall, while Shadow kept vigil at his side. Around midnight, the bleeding started again. Sarah changed his bandages, adjusted his position, forced him to swallow water when he drifted close enough to consciousness. Around 2, his fever spiked. She packed snow in towels and laid them across his forehead, whispering reassurances she wasn't sure he could hear. Around 4, he opened his eyes and said her husband's name. Daniel. Sarah froze. What? Cole's gaze was unfocused, lost somewhere between dream and memory. Daniel Morgan. You're his wife. The floor dropped out from under her. How do you know that name? The files. Cole's hand moved weakly toward his pocket. His files. He was investigating. Investigating what? But Cole was gone, again sliding back into unconsciousness, leaving Sarah with a heart pounding so hard she thought it might break her ribs. She reached into his jacket, found the flash drive. Her fingers trembled as she pulled it free. A small black rectangle no bigger than her thumb smeared with his blood. Sarah looked at the unconscious man on her floor, at the dog who wouldn't leave his side, at the storm howling outside her window. What did you bring to my door? She whispered. Dawn came gray and cold. The storm had slowed, but not stopped leaving drifts 4 feet deep against the cabin walls. Sarah made coffee, checked Cole's vitals, changed his bandages again. He was stable. Against all odds, all logic, all the medical training that told her a man with 3 bullet wounds should be dead, he was stable. Shadow hadn't moved all night. When Sarah tried to coax him to his food bowl, he refused. He's going to be okay, boy, she said. You can rest. Shadow's tail thumped once against the floor, but he stayed where he was. The phone rang. Sarah jumped so hard she nearly dropped her coffee. The landline. She'd almost forgotten she had one. Hello. Sarah, it's Marcus, Sheriff Wade. Her grip tightened on the receiver. Sheriff, hi. Just checking on you. Hell of a storm last night. Roads are completely blocked. Wanted to make sure you and the baby are okay up there. We're fine. Thank you for checking. Good. Good. A pause. Too long. Listen, I hate to bother you with this, but we got a call last night. Some kind of incident up on the mountain road. Federal agents looking for a man. Might be injured. Might be dangerous. Sarah's blood turned to ice. They wanted me to ask around. See if anyone had seen anything unusual. Strangers. Vehicles. You know how it is. No. Her voice came out steady. She didn't know how. Haven't seen anything. Storm kept me inside all night. Another pause. Right, of course. Well, if you do see anything, you call me directly, okay? Don't talk to anyone else. Just me. Why would I talk to anyone else? Just being cautious. She could hear him smiling through the phone. You take care of yourself, Sarah. And that baby. The line went dead. Sarah stood there, phone in hand, staring at nothing. Behind her, Shadow was growling. You heard that? Cole's voice made her spin around. He was still on the floor, but his eyes were open. Alert. The fever haze was gone. You shouldn't be awake. You shouldn't have answered that phone. He tried to push himself up and failed, collapsing back with a grunt of pain. That sheriff. What's his name? Marcus Wade. He's been sheriff here for 15 years. He knew my husband. Sarah. Cole's voice was urgent now, cutting through her confusion. Listen to me very carefully. The people who shot me, they have contacts everywhere. Local law enforcement, federal agencies, military command. That's insane. That's why I'm bleeding on your floor. He held her gaze. They found out I copied their files. They've been hunting me for 3 days. And now your sheriff just asked you directly if you'd seen any strangers. Sarah shook her head. Marcus wouldn't. How well did you know your husband's work? The question hit her like a slap. What? Daniel Morgan, Army Ranger, died 18 months ago. Training accident. Cole's eyes never left hers. Except it wasn't an accident, was it? Sarah couldn't breathe. How do you know about Daniel? Because I found his files. Cole's hand moved toward his pocket, then stopped when he remembered the flash drive was gone. Encrypted, hidden on a military server. Someone buried them after he died. What files? Evidence, investigation notes, interview transcripts. Cole's voice softened. Your husband found the same thing I found Sarah. A trafficking operation using military logistics to move children across borders. He was building a case. No. Sarah backed away, shaking her head. No. Daniel was a ranger. He trained soldiers. He was working undercover for months, getting close to the people running it. Cole's jaw tightened. And when he got too close, they killed him. The room spun. Sarah grabbed the back of a chair to stay upright. You're lying. I wish I was. Daniel died in a helicopter crash. Mechanical failure. The Army investigated. The Army covered it up. Cole's voice was flat. Certain. The voice of a man who had seen too much to doubt himself. Because the man running this operation is Captain Raymond Vance, decorated officer, Pentagon connections, friends in every branch. I don't believe you. Check the flash drive. Cole nodded toward her pocket. Everything's on there, including your husband's last report, the one he filed 2 days before he died. Sarah's hand moved to the drive. She could feel it pressing against her thigh, small and heavy as a grenade. Why would you tell me this? Because you saved my life. Cole's voice cracked. For the first time, she saw something other than the soldier. something human, something broken. And because your husband died trying to save those children, he deserves for someone to finish what he started. Sarah looked at the drive, at Cole, at Shadow still pressed against the wounded man's side. You brought them here, she said quietly. The people hunting you. You led them right to my door. I know. My baby, my home, everything I have left. I know. Cole closed his eyes. And I'm sorry. Sarah stood there, trembling choices racing through her mind faster than she could catch them. Run, hide, throw him out in the snow and pretend none of this ever happened. But Daniel's face floated up from memory, the way he'd looked the last time she saw him alive, troubled, carrying something too heavy to share, kissing her goodbye like he wasn't sure he'd be back. Some fights are worth everything, he'd told her once, even when you know you might lose. Sarah pulled the flash drive from her pocket. If I look at this, she said slowly, there's no going back. No, Cole agreed. There isn't. Shadow lifted his head and whined. His eyes moved from Cole to Sarah and back again. Sarah walked to her laptop. Chatum. The files loaded slowly, the cabin's weak internet connection struggling against the massive encrypted database. Sarah watched the progress bar creep forward, while Cole drifted in and out of consciousness behind her. Daniel's face appeared first. An official photo taken from military records. He was smiling in it, that crooked smile she'd fallen in love with at a barbecue in Fort Bragg, the one that said he knew something funny nobody else had noticed. Sarah's throat closed. She scrolled down. Dates, names, locations, intercepted communications, photographs of cargo manifests that didn't match their contents. And then the children. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Faces blurred in surveillance photos, small bodies huddled in transport containers, hands reaching through chain-link fences. Sarah covered her mouth. Operation Shepherd, the header read. Ongoing investigation. Lead Officer Captain Daniel Morgan, 75th Ranger Regiment. Her husband's handwriting filled the margins. Notes. Theories. Questions circled and underlined, connected by arrows she could almost hear him muttering about. Vance controls logistics, uses training exercises as cover. Children moved through 3 transfer points before reaching buyers. Who else knows? Sarah scrolled further. Wade compromised. Evidence of payments 2019 to 2022. Cannot trust local law enforcement. The words blurred. Sarah wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Wade. Sheriff Marcus Wade, who had brought her a casserole after Daniel's funeral, who had sat at her kitchen table and told her what a good man her husband was, who had called 15 minutes ago to ask if she'd seen any strangers. The same man who had helped kill him. Sarah! Cole's voice was stronger now. She turned to find him propped up on one elbow, pain etched across his face, but determination burning through it. You need to understand what this means, he said. Vance has people watching for that drive. The moment it surfaces, they'll know where it came from, where I went, who helped me. So we stay hidden. Wait for the storm to pass. The storm is the only thing keeping them away. Cole's jaw tightened. Once it clears, they'll be here, and they won't come to talk. Then what do we do? There's a DEA agent, Diana Reeves. She's been building a parallel case for 2 years. She's the only federal contact I trust. Cole recited a phone number. She needs to know I'm alive. She needs to know about the drive. The phones are tapped. You said so yourself. Not if we use a satellite uplink. Cole's eyes moved to the window. You have a SAR radio, emergency frequency. It bypasses local infrastructure. Sarah shook her head. That radio is for search and rescue operations. If I use it for something else, then we use it for a search and rescue operation. Cole smiled grimly. I'm injured. You found me in the storm. You're calling for emergency evacuation. By the time they realize what's really happening, Reeves will have the drive. That's insane. It's the only option. Cole held her gaze. Unless you want to wait here for Vance's men to come finish what they started. Sarah looked at the laptop screen, at the children's faces, at her husband's handwriting documenting the evil he'd died trying to stop. Then she looked at Shadow. The old dog hadn't moved from Cole's side. His amber eyes were fixed on her, waiting for a command, waiting to serve. Sometimes the right thing and the safe thing aren't the same, Daniel had said once, and you have to choose. Sarah had always hated that about him, the way he saw the world in such clear lines, good and evil, duty and fear, the way he walked toward danger while everyone else ran away. Now she understood. I'll get the radio, she said. She was halfway to the closet when the window exploded. Glass rained across the floor. Sarah hit the ground on instinct, covering her belly rifle, skidding out of reach. Shadow was barking that sharp, vicious combat bark she hadn't heard in years. A man crashed through the shattered window tactical gear, black against the snow, swirling behind him. He was up before Sarah could move, weapon raised, scanning the room. His eyes found Cole on the floor. There you are. Cole moved faster than any wounded man should. His hand caught the leg of the end table, flipped it, and sent it crashing into the intruder's knees. The man stumbled. Shadow hit him like a guided missile, 70 pounds of military training and protective fury. Jaws clamped around the man's forearm. The gun went off the shot, going wide, punching through the ceiling. Sarah, the rifle. She was already moving. Her fingers closed around the stock, just as a second figure appeared in the window. Sarah didn't think. She just aimed and fired. The shot caught him in the shoulder, spinning him back into the snow. She racked another round, swung toward the first intruder, and found Shadow still attached to his arm. Shadow, release! The dog let go, instantly retreating to position himself between Sarah and the threat. The man crumpled, clutching his savaged arm, blood pouring between his fingers. How many? Sarah's voice was ice. How many more outside? The man just laughed. You have no idea what you're in the middle of. Cole had dragged himself to the wall, one hand pressed against his reopened wound, the other gripping the intruder's dropped pistol. I know exactly what I'm in the middle of. His aim was rock steady despite his condition. Tell Vance his operation is finished. The drive is already backed up to 3 secure servers. Kill me, and it goes public in 48 hours. The man's laughter died. You're bluffing. Pull that trigger and find out. Silence. The wind howled through the broken window. Blood dripped onto the floor. Then distantly the sound of engines, multiple vehicles coming up the mountain road. The man smiled again. Doesn't matter. You're out of time anyway. Sarah's grip tightened on the rifle. Shadow, guard. The German shepherd positioned himself at the window, teeth bared, watching the tree line. Sarah turned to Cole. His face was gray, his body shaking, the pistol wavering in his grip. Can you move? Do I have a choice? Sarah helped him to his feet. He leaned against her heavily, one arm draped across her shoulders, the other still holding the gun. Back door, she said. There's a root cellar 50 yards from the cabin. They won't find it in this storm. What about him? Cole nodded toward the intruder on the floor. Sarah looked at the man who had just tried to kill them, the man who worked for the people who murdered her husband. Leave him. Let his friends find him. She whistled for Shadow and moved toward the back door. Behind them, the engines grew louder. The cold bit through Sarah's jacket as she half-carried Cole across the snow. His weight pressed against her shoulder, his breathing ragged and wet. Shadow ran ahead, then circled back, then ran ahead again, his old body fighting through drifts that reached his chest. 50 yards, Sarah gasped. Just 50 yards. Cole's legs buckled. She caught him barely her back, screaming in protest. Leave me. Shut up. Sarah, I'm slowing you down. The baby. I said shut up. She dragged him forward another step. I didn't dig 3 bullets out of you just to leave you in the snow. Behind them, voices shouted. Flashlight beams swept the tree line. The engines had stopped, which meant they were on foot now, spreading out, searching. Shadow barked once, low and urgent. I see it, boy. I see it. The root cellar door was nearly invisible under the snow. Sarah had to kick away the drift before she could grab the handle. The wood groaned as she hauled it open. Get in. Cole half fell, half slid down the wooden steps. Sarah followed, pulling the door shut above them just as a flashlight beam passed overhead. Darkness. Absolute and complete. Sarah held her breath. Cole's hand found hers in the black and squeezed once. Footsteps crunched through the snow above them. Stopped. Started again. Moved away. Neither of them moved for 5 full minutes. Finally, Sarah exhaled. We're clear. For now. For now. Cole's voice was barely a whisper. They'll search the cabin. Find the blood. Follow the trail. Storm's covering our tracks. Not for long. Sarah fumbled in her pocket for the small flashlight she always carried. The beam revealed Cole slumped against a shelf of preserved vegetables, his face gray, his shirt soaked red. You're bleeding again. I noticed. She knelt beside him and pulled back his jacket. The wound in his side had torn open, blood seeping through the bandages she'd applied hours ago. I need to restitch this. With what? Sarah looked around the cellar. Canning supplies. Old blankets. A first aid kit she'd stashed here years ago for emergencies. Hold the light. She worked fast fingers steady despite the fear coiling in her stomach. Cole watched her with those pale blue eyes, not flinching as she threaded the needle through his torn flesh. You've done this before, he said. Too many times. Afghanistan, Helmand Province, 2 tours. Sarah tied off the suture and reached for a fresh bandage. Daniel was there too. That's how we met. In combat, in a field hospital. She smiled despite herself. He'd taken shrapnel pulling a private out of a burning vehicle. Wouldn't let me treat him until I'd checked on his men first. Sounds like a good officer. He was a good man. Sarah's hands stilled on the bandage. That mattered more. And Cole was quiet for a moment. Then, the files I found. His investigation. It went back 2 years before he died. 2 years. He was building a case. Slow, careful, getting close to people, earning trust, documenting everything. Cole shifted, wincing. He knew how deep this went. He knew if he moved too fast, they'd bury him. They buried him anyway, because someone tipped them off. Cole's jaw tightened. Someone he trusted. Sarah's hands shook as she finished the bandage. Wade. The payment started in 2019. Monthly deposits to an offshore account. Small enough not to trigger alerts. Big enough to buy silence. Daniel trusted him. Sarah's voice cracked. We both did. He came to our wedding. He held my hand at the funeral and told me what a hero Daniel was. Men like Wade are good at pretending. Cole reached for her hand. His grip was weak, but warm. Your husband saw through him eventually. That's in the files, too. A note from 3 days before the crash. Wade compromised. Find another way. Another way to what? Get the evidence out. Cole met her eyes. Daniel had a backup plan, Sarah. A way to transmit everything if something happened to him. But he never got the chance to use it. Sarah pulled her hand away. The cellar felt smaller suddenly, the walls pressing in. What backup plan? I don't know. The file was corrupted. All I could recover was a partial reference. Cole hesitated. He mentioned a location. Something personal. Somewhere only you would know. That could be anywhere. Think. Where would Daniel hide something if he wanted to make sure only you could find it? Sarah closed her eyes. Daniel's face swam up from memory. His smile. His laugh. The way he'd kiss her forehead when he thought she was asleep. Our spot, she whispered. What? There's a place. Up on Miller's Ridge. Daniel proposed there. Sarah's eyes opened. He carved our initials into a tree. Told me that was our spot no matter what happened. That's where I'd always find him. Cole leaned forward, despite the pain. Could he have hidden something there? Maybe. I don't know. Sarah shook her head. It doesn't matter. Miller's Ridge is 6 miles from here. In this storm with you bleeding out, I'm not bleeding out. You can barely stand. Then help me stand. Cole grabbed the shelf and pulled himself upright. His face went white, but he stayed on his feet. Sarah, if Daniel hid backup evidence, we need it. The flash drive isn't enough. You said the drive had everything. Everything I found. But Vance has been doing this for 10 years. There are people above him. People who've been protecting him. Cole's voice hardened. If we take this public with just my evidence, they'll discredit me. Call me a traitor. Bury the story in noise. And Daniel's evidence? Corroboration. From a decorated army ranger who died trying to expose them. Cole held her gaze. They can't discredit a dead hero, Sarah. Not if we have proof he died for the truth. Sarah looked at her dog. Shadow sat at the base of the steps, ears pricked toward the door, still guarding them even now. Daniel would have gone. She knew that with absolute certainty. Daniel would have walked through fire if it meant saving those children. The storm's not letting up, she said slowly. If we move now, they won't expect it. That's the idea. You'll slow me down. Probably. You might die. Might. Cole almost smiled. But I've been dying since Kandahar. At least this time it's for something that matters. Sarah wanted to argue. Wanted to point out all the reasons this was suicide. Wanted to lock herself in this cellar and wait for the storm to pass and pretend none of this had ever happened. But Daniel's face wouldn't leave her mind. And neither would the children's. Shadow, she said quietly. Trail. The German shepherd rose immediately, his old body snapping to attention like the years had melted away. Sarah helped Cole to the stairs. Stay close, she told him, and try not to die before we get there. Cole actually laughed. It cost him, she could tell, but he laughed anyway. Yes, ma'am. They climbed into the storm. The first mile was the worst. Cole's weight seemed to double with every step, his body fighting him harder than the wind. Sarah had wrapped her scarf around his wound, but blood still seeped through, leaving a trail she prayed the snow would cover. Shadow ranged ahead, his nose working overtime, steering them away from danger she couldn't see. Talk to me, Sarah demanded when Cole's eyes started to flutter. Stay awake. About what? Your daughter. Tell me about Lily. Cole's pace steadied. Just slightly. She has her mother's eyes. Brown, warm. She laughs at everything. When did you last see her? 3 years ago. His voice caught. Her birthday. I showed up with a giant stuffed bear. She was so happy. Why didn't you go back? Because I found out what Vance was doing. Cole stumbled, caught himself on Sarah's shoulder. I started investigating, started getting close to people I shouldn't have. Every time I thought about visiting Lily, I imagined what would happen if they followed me there. So you stayed away. I stayed away. The words were heavy with grief. Told myself I was protecting her. Told myself she'd understand someday. Will she? Cole didn't answer. He didn't need to. Shadow stopped suddenly, his body going rigid. Sarah halted, one hand reaching for the rifle slung across her back. What is it, boy? The dog's nose pointed northeast. His hackles rose. Sarah listened. Wind. Snow. Nothing else. Then faintly the crackle of a radio. Down, she hissed. They dropped behind a fallen log. Cole's face was twisted with pain, but he didn't make a sound. Shadow pressed himself flat against the snow, invisible in the white. Two figures emerged from the trees 30 yards ahead. Tactical gear. Automatic weapons. They moved like soldiers scanning sectors, covering each other's movements. Sarah's grip tightened on the rifle. Can you shoot? She breathed. Can you give me a weapon? She pressed Daniel's pistol into his hand, the one she'd taken off the intruder at the cabin. On my signal. Left one first. Cole's breathing steadied. His hand stopped shaking. For a moment, Sarah saw the seal beneath the wounded man, the warrior who had survived 3 wars. The figures moved closer. 20 yards. 15. One of them spoke into his radio. Sector 4 clear. Moving to now. Sarah's shot took him in the chest. Cole's followed a heartbeat later, catching the second man in the throat. They both went down without a sound. Shadow was on them before the echoes faded, checking threats the way he'd been trained a lifetime ago. He returned to Sarah's side, tail low, message clear. Finished. Sarah didn't let herself feel it yet. She grabbed Cole's arm and hauled him forward. Move! They'll have heard the shots. They ran, or something close to it. Cole's feet dragged his body, sagging, but he kept moving. Sarah's lungs burned. Her legs screamed. The baby kicked against her ribs as if urging her faster. Behind them, shouts rang out through the trees. Their movement! Contact, contact! More shots! Close, too close! Sarah felt the heat of a bullet pass her ear. Shadow defense! The German shepherd spun, placing himself between them and the pursuers. He didn't attack. He didn't need to. His presence alone made them hesitate, gave Sarah and Cole the precious seconds they needed. Come on, come on! The ridge appeared through the snow like a ghost. Sarah recognized the rock formation, the twisted pine that Daniel used to call their sentinel. There, she gasped. The tree. They scrambled up the slope. Cole fell twice. Sarah pulled him up twice. Her arms felt like they were tearing from their sockets, but she didn't stop. The tree loomed above them, its trunk scarred and weathered. Sarah's hand found the carving without looking. DM plus SM forever. Daniel, she whispered. Show me. Her fingers traced the bark below the initials, found a crack, found something metal beneath. She pulled out a waterproof case the size of her palm. Sarah! Cole's voice was urgent. They're coming. She could hear them now. Boots crashing through the undergrowth. Voices coordinating positions. She shoved the case into her pocket and grabbed Cole's arm. Can you make it to the gorge? The gorge, 1/4 mile west. There's a maintenance shed for the fire road, radio inside. Cole looked at her. Both of them knew he couldn't make another 1/4 mile. Go, he said. No. Sarah, you have everything now. Both drives. You can finish this. I said no. She pulled his arm over her shoulder. Shadow lead. The dog took off. Sarah followed, half carrying Cole, her entire body screaming in protest. The pursuers were close now. Flashlight beams cut through the snow. Bullets cracked past them, thudding into trees. "Stay with me," Sarah ordered. "Stay with me." Cole's legs gave out. He hit the snow hard, dragging Sarah down with him. She tried to pull him up, but his body wouldn't respond. "Go," he gasped. "Please, the children need you alive." "Damn you." Tears froze on Sarah's cheeks. "Damn you, don't do this." Shadow appeared at their side. He grabbed Cole's jacket in his teeth and pulled. His old body strained, muscles trembling, but he didn't stop. Cole stared at the dog. Something shifted in his eyes. "That dog," he breathed. "He's not going to quit. Neither am I." Sarah grabbed Cole's other arm. "On 3, 1, 2. They heaved together. Cole came up screaming, the sound torn from somewhere deep inside him, but he was standing. Barely. "The shed," Sarah said. "I can see it." The small structure materialized through the snow. Gray wood, rusty hinges, a radio antenna poking up from the roof. 20 yards. 15. A bullet caught Cole in the shoulder. He spun, blood spraying, but Sarah caught him before he could fall. Shadow was barking now, that furious combat bark, his body positioned between them and the shooters. "Almost there!" Sarah screamed. "Almost there!" She kicked the door open, dragged Cole inside. Shadow followed. The door slammed shut. Sarah threw the bolt and slid to the floor, gasping. Cole lay beside her, blood pooling beneath him. 4 bullets now, 4 bullets and still breathing. "Radio," he whispered. "Call Reeves." Sarah forced herself up. The radio was ancient, a Forest Service model from the 80s, but it powered on when she hit the switch. She grabbed the handset. "This is Sarah Morgan calling any federal frequency. Emergency transmission. Repeat emergency transmission." Static. "Please," she breathed. "Please." More static. Then a voice. "This is Agent Diana Reeves, DEA. Identify yourself." Sarah almost collapsed with relief. "I have Commander Cole Mitchell. He's badly wounded. We have evidence on the Vance trafficking operation. We need immediate extraction." A pause. Then, location, fire, road, maintenance shed, Miller's Ridge, Silver Ridge, Colorado. We're surrounded. Multiple hostiles. Hold your position. Help is coming. The radio clicked off. Sarah looked at Cole. His eyes were closed, his chest barely moving. She grabbed his hand. "Did you hear that help is coming?" Cole's eyes opened. He tried to smile. "Told you," he whispered. "Worth dying for." "You're not dying." "Sarah." His grip tightened on her hand. "If I don't make it, tell Lily I'm sorry. Tell her I stayed away because I loved her, not because I didn't. Tell her yourself. Promise me." Sarah looked at this man she'd known for less than a day. This stranger who had crashed into her life with blood and secrets and the ghost of her dead husband. "I promise," she said. Cole closed his eyes. Shadow pressed his body against Cole's side, warming him, guarding him, refusing to give up even when his own wounds seeped red into his gray fur. Outside voices gathered. "They're in the shed. Surround it. No one gets out." Sarah picked up the rifle, checked the magazine. 3 rounds left. "Shadow," she said quietly. "Guard him." The German shepherd didn't move from Cole's side. Sarah positioned herself by the window. Through the cracks in the wood, she could see flashlight beams converging from every direction. "Come on, Reeves," she whispered. "Come on!" A bullhorn crackled to life. "Sarah Morgan, this is Sheriff Marcus Wade. Come out now and no one else needs to get hurt." Sarah's blood turned to ice. I know what you found, Wade's voice continued. I know what Cole told you. But you don't understand the whole picture. Let me explain. Let me help you. Sarah's finger found the trigger. You killed my husband, she said quietly. Not loud enough for him to hear. Just for herself. You helped murder Daniel, and you came to his funeral and held my hand. She raised the rifle. If I'm going to die tonight, she whispered, I'm taking you with me. The door exploded inward. Sarah fired before the door hit the floor. The first man threw took the bullet in the chest and crumpled. The second dove sideways, and her shot went wide, punching through the wall behind him. Shadow launched himself at the third attacker, his jaws finding flesh before the man could raise his weapon. The scream was short and wet. Sarah racked another round. Empty. The rifle was empty. Stay down! She dropped behind an overturned desk, reaching for Daniel's pistol at her hip. Gunfire ripped through the shed. Wood splintered above her head. She heard Shadow yelp, heard Cole groan, heard her own heartbeat thundering in her ears. Hold your fire. Hold your fire. The shooting stopped. Sarah pressed herself against the desk, pistol ready, breath coming in ragged gasps. Sarah. Wade's voice drifted through the smoke and chaos. This doesn't have to end badly. You killed my husband. That's not entirely accurate. You helped them murder Daniel, and then you stood at his grave and pretended to mourn. Sarah's voice shook with rage. How is that not entirely accurate? Silence. Then footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Daniel was a good man, Wade said. I mean that. He was one of the best men I ever knew. Then why? Because good men make terrible decisions. Wade's voice was closer now, just outside the shattered doorway. He found something he shouldn't have, something bigger than him, bigger than me, bigger than all of us. Those children aren't bigger than anyone. They're just children. And there will always be more of them. Wade sounded tired, almost sad. You think taking down Vance changes anything? Someone else steps in. The money keeps flowing. The operation continues. So you just gave up. I made a choice. His shadow fell across the threshold. Same choice you're making right now. Survival. Sarah's grip tightened on the pistol. I'm nothing like you. You're exactly like me. You're pregnant, alone, surrounded by men who will kill you without hesitation. Wade's voice dropped. But it doesn't have to be that way. Give me the drives, both of them. Walk away. Start over somewhere else. And the children aren't your responsibility. Sarah looked at Cole. His eyes were open, barely watching her with something that might have been hope, or might have been acceptance. Shadow lay beside him, blood matting his fur, but still breathing. Still guarding. She thought about Daniel, about the day he proposed on Miller's Ridge, about the way he'd looked at her when he talked about the future, about children of their own, about the life they'd build together. He died for those other children, the ones in the photographs, the ones with no one to protect them. You're wrong, Sarah said quietly. They're everyone's responsibility. She stood up and fired. The shot caught Wade in the shoulder, spinning him sideways. He hit the door frame and went down, his weapon skidding across the floor. Take her, he screamed. Take her now. Men poured through the doorway. Sarah fired again. Missed. A body slammed into her, driving her backward. The pistol flew from her hand. She hit the floor hard, the impact driving the breath from her lungs. Hands grabbed her arms, pinned her down. A knee pressed against her back. The drives, someone snarled. Where are they? Go to hell! A fist connected with her jaw. Stars exploded across her vision. Search her! Hands tore at her jacket, her pockets. Found the flash drive Cole had given her. Found the waterproof case from the tree. Got them, both of them. The pressure on her back eased slightly. Sarah twisted, trying to see. 3 men standing over her, Wade struggling to his feet, blood streaming from his shoulder, 2 more by the door, and Cole somehow impossibly pushing himself up on one elbow. "Hey!" The word was barely a whisper, but it cut through everything. Wade turned. His face went pale. Cole had the pistol. The one Sarah had given him in the cellar. The one everyone had forgotten about. "Step away from her." "You can barely stand," Wade said. "You're bleeding from 4 holes. You're—" Cole fired. The shot took out the man closest to Sarah. Before anyone could react, Cole fired again, and again. 2 more men dropped. Wade dove for cover. The remaining attackers scattered, returning fire. Bullets tore through the air where Cole had been, but he'd already collapsed behind the radio console. Sarah grabbed the fallen pistol from the nearest body. Her hands found the grip muscle memory taking over. Shadow attack! The German shepherd launched himself at the nearest gunman. 70 pounds of fury and training. The man went down, screaming. Sarah shot the other one. Silence fell. Heavy. Ringing. Wade was the only one left standing. He leaned against the wall, clutching his wounded shoulder, his face twisted with pain and something darker. "It's over," Sarah said, rising to her feet. "Drop your weapon." Wade laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Over? You have no idea what you've started." "I said drop it. Vance has people everywhere. FBI, CIA, Pentagon. You think your DEA friend can protect you?" Wade's eyes were wild now. "They'll find you. They'll find everyone you love. And they'll— Marcus." The voice came from the doorway. Calm. Controlled. Female. Sarah turned. A woman stood silhouetted against the snow. Early 40s. Close-cropped blonde hair. Federal tactical vest. Behind her, more agents streamed past, weapons raised, securing the perimeter. "Agent Diana Reeves," the woman said. "DEA." Wade's face crumpled. The fight drained out of him in a single breath. "It's over, Marcus." Reeves stepped into the shed, her weapon trained on the sheriff's chest. "Put down the gun." For a long moment, nobody moved. Wade's hand trembled on his pistol. His eyes darted from Reeves to Sarah to the bodies on the floor. "They'll kill me," he whispered. "If I talk, they'll kill me. If you don't talk, you'll spend the rest of your life in a cell." Reeves didn't blink. "Your choice." Wade's shoulders sagged. The pistol fell from his fingers. "On the ground, hands behind your head." He obeyed. 2 agents moved forward to secure him. Reeves holstered her weapon and turned to Sarah. Her eyes took in everything. The blood. The bodies. The pregnant woman with a gun still smoking in her hand. "Sarah Morgan." Sarah nodded. She couldn't find words. "Hell of a night?" "My husband, I know." Reeves's voice softened. "Daniel was one of mine, undercover. Nobody knew except me and 2 other people." She paused. "When he died, I thought everything was lost. It wasn't." Sarah reached into her pocket. The drives were gone, taken by Wade's men before Cole intervened. "Cole." Sarah spun around. He lay where he'd fallen, unmoving, the pistol still clutched in his hand. "Cole." She dropped beside him, pressed her fingers to his neck. The pulse was there. Weak. Thready. But there. "We need a medic," Reeves shouted. "Now!" Paramedics rushed in. Sarah was pushed back as they worked, their hands moving with practiced urgency. IVs, pressure bandages, words she recognized from her own training, words that meant he was still alive. "Ma'am," one of the agents approached her. "The drives, where are they?" Sarah looked at Wade being hauled to his feet by 2 agents. He took them. "Check his pockets." The agent searched. Found the flash drive. Found the waterproof case. Got them. Reeves took both items and examined them. Her expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. Is this what I think it is? Daniel's backup, Sarah said. Everything he found before they killed him. Reeves closed her hand around the case. Then we have them. All of them. Sarah should have felt relief. Victory. Something. But all she felt was exhaustion, bone deep and absolute, pressing down on her like the weight of the mountain itself. Ma'am, a paramedic approached. Young, earnest. We need to check you out. The baby. I'm fine. Ma'am, check the dog first. Sarah pointed to Shadow, lying motionless beside the radio console. Please. The paramedic hesitated, then nodded. She watched as he knelt beside Shadow, checking vitals, examining wounds. He's stable, lost blood, but nothing critical. The paramedic looked up. Tough old boy. He's a soldier. Sarah's voice broke, just like my husband. She sank to her knees beside Shadow. Her hand found his fur, felt the steady rise and fall of his breathing. The tears came then. Finally. After everything. Good boy, she whispered. Such a good boy. Shadow's tail moved. Once. Weak but deliberate. Reeves crouched beside her. We're airlifting Commander Mitchell to Denver. Touch and go, but he's a fighter. I know. You should come too. Get checked out, both of you. Sarah looked at the shed, at the bodies, at the bullet holes and blood stains and shattered glass. Did we win? Reeves was quiet for a moment. Ask me in a week. We're hitting 4 locations tonight based on what's on these drives. If the intel's good, we'll have dismantled the largest trafficking operation in the Southwest. And Vance, being arrested as we speak. Reeves stood. Virginia field office is moving on him now. Sarah closed her eyes. Daniel's face swam up from memory, smiling, proud, at peace. He knew, she said quietly. He knew this day would come, even if he wasn't here to see it. Reeves didn't respond. Some things didn't need words. The helicopter ride was a blur of noise and motion. Sarah sat strapped into a jump seat, Shadow sedated and secured beside her, watching the mountains fall away beneath them. Cole lay on a stretcher across the cabin. 3 medics worked on him continuously, their voices sharp with urgency. She couldn't hear what they were saying over the rotors, but their body language told her everything. He was dying. She reached across the cabin and took his hand. His eyes opened. Just barely. Still here, she said. Still here. His voice was a thread almost lost in the noise. The kids, Reeves is moving on them now. Tonight. Cole's grip tightened. Just for a moment. Worth it, he whispered. All of it. Don't talk like that. Sarah. His eyes found hers, clear despite the pain. Thank you for not leaving me in the snow. Thank me by surviving. He tried to smile. It didn't quite work. Tell Lily. You'll tell her yourself. The helicopter banked hard. Cole's eyes fluttered shut. Cole, Cole! One of the medics pushed her back. Ma'am, we need room to work. Is he? He's fighting, but we need room. Sarah retreated to her seat. Her hand found Shadow's fur, grounding herself in the warmth of him. Fight, she whispered. To Cole. To herself. To everyone. Keep fighting. Denver Regional Medical Center was chaos. Sarah was separated from Cole the moment they touched down. Doctors in scrubs rushed him away on a gurney, shouting orders she couldn't follow. Someone guided her to an examination room. Someone else checked her vitals, the baby's heartbeat, her blood pressure. Everything looks good. Baby's strong. My dog. being treated in the veterinary wing. He'll be fine. And Cole Commander Mitchell. The nurse hesitated. He's in surgery. That's all I know. Sarah sat alone in the examination room, still wearing her blood-stained clothes, still feeling the weight of Daniel's rifle across her back, even though someone had taken it hours ago. Her phone buzzed. A number she didn't recognize. Hello, Mrs. Morgan. A woman's voice. Young, professional. This is Karen Mitchell, Cole's ex-wife. Sarah's breath caught. How did you... Agent Reeves contacted me. Karen's voice trembled. Is he alive? Is Cole alive? He's in surgery. I don't know anything else. Silence on the line. Then, he called me 3 days ago, first time in 2 years, said he needed me to know something. What? That he was sorry, that he stayed away to protect us, that if anything happened, he wanted Lily to know he never stopped loving her. Sarah closed her eyes. Cole's voice echoed in her memory. Tell Lily I stayed away because I loved her, not because I didn't. He almost died getting that message out, Sarah said. More than once. Who are you? Karen's voice was curious now, not hostile. How do you know my husband, ex-husband? We never finalized the papers. I kept hoping. Karen trailed off. It doesn't matter. Who are you? Sarah looked at her hands, still stained with Cole's blood. I'm the woman who found him in the snow. My dog led me to him. The K9. He mentioned a K9 in his message. Shadow. He's a retired military working dog. He knew Cole needed help before I did. Karen was quiet for a long moment. Is Cole a good man? Strange question, but Sarah understood it. He carried evidence that could save hundreds of children. He took 4 bullets protecting it. He could have given up a dozen times, and he didn't. That doesn't answer my question. Sarah thought about it. Really thought. My husband was a good man, she said finally. The best I ever knew. He died trying to do what Cole just did. And when I looked at Cole fighting through all that pain and blood and fear, I saw the same thing in him that I saw in Daniel. What's that? Someone who cares more about doing the right thing than surviving it. Karen started to cry. Quiet sobs that crackled through the phone. Bring him back, she whispered. Please, whatever it takes. Bring him back. I can't promise that. Then pray. If you're the praying type. Sarah wasn't. Not anymore. Not since Daniel. But she said yes anyway. The surgery took 6 hours. Sarah waited in the hallway, refusing to sleep, refusing to eat, refusing to do anything except watch that door and pray to a God she wasn't sure she believed in anymore. Reeves came by around hour 3. She looked exhausted, but triumphant. 4 locations. Over 200 kids recovered. We're still processing the data from Daniel's files, but the initial intel is solid. Vance, in custody. Not talking, but he doesn't need to. The evidence speaks for itself. Wade, singing like a canary. Reeves smiled grimly. Turns out he doesn't want to spend the rest of his life in prison after all. He's giving us names, dates, bank accounts, things even Daniel didn't find. Sarah nodded. She should feel something. She knew that. Your husband was a hero, Reeves said. I'm going to make sure the world knows it. He didn't do it for recognition. No, he did it for those kids. Same as Cole. Reeves paused. Same as you. Sarah looked at her blood-stained hands again. I didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice. Reeves held her gaze. You could have turned him away. Could have called Wade instead of helping. Could have stayed in that cellar and let them find you. I couldn't. Why not? Sarah thought about Daniel, about the way he'd looked at her the morning he died, about the future he'd wanted, the children he'd dreamed of, the world he'd tried to make better. Because my husband would have been ashamed of me. Reeves nodded. She didn't say anything else. She didn't need to. Around hour 5, a nurse let Sarah visit Shadow. The old German shepherd lay on a padded table of 4 in his front leg bandages wrapped around his midsection. His amber eyes tracked her the moment she entered, and his tail began to wag. "Hey, boy." Sarah knelt beside him, burying her face in his fur. "Hey." Shadow's tongue found her cheek. Gentle, reassuring. "You saved him," she whispered. "You saved all of us." The dog just looked at her with those wise old eyes, the same eyes that had watched over Daniel, that had protected wounded soldiers in Helmand Province, that had led her through the storm to a dying stranger who changed everything. "Good boy," she said. "Such a good boy." Shadow's tail thumped against the table. The surgeon found her at hour 6, Dr. Nathan Cole. Mid-50s, broad shoulders, calm brown eyes that had seen everything. "Mrs. Morgan." Sarah stood so fast she nearly fell. "Is he? He's alive." Dr. Cole held up a hand. "Stable. 4 bullets. We removed them all. There was significant internal damage, but we managed to stop the bleeding and repair the worst of it. Will he make it? The next 24 hours will tell us more. But he's strong." The surgeon almost smiled. "I've never seen someone fight that hard to stay alive." Sarah's knees buckled. She caught herself on the wall. "Can I see him? He's sedated, won't wake up for hours." "I don't care. Can I see him?" Dr. Cole studied her for a moment. The blood on her clothes, the exhaustion in her eyes, the determination beneath it all. "Follow me." Cole lay in a private room, machines beeping softly around him. His face was pale, but his chest rose and fell with steady rhythm. Alive, despite everything. Sarah sank into the chair beside his bed. "You did it," she whispered. "You stubborn, crazy, beautiful idiot. You did it." Cole didn't respond, but somehow she thought he heard. She took his hand, closed her eyes. For the first time in 18 months, Sarah Morgan slept without nightmares. She woke to the sound of a child's voice. "Daddy." Sarah's eyes snapped open. A little girl stood in the doorway, maybe 7 years old, with brown hair and brown eyes, and a face full of hope and fear and desperate, desperate love. Behind her, a woman watched. Mid-30s, dark hair, beautiful in a tired, worn way. Karen Mitchell and her daughter Lily. Lily took a step into the room, then another. Her eyes were fixed on Cole, taking in the bandages, the tubes, the machines. "Is he sleeping?" Sarah found her voice. "Yes, sweetheart, he's sleeping." "Will he wake up?" "I think so. I hope so." Lily walked to the bed. Her small hand reached out and found Cole's. "Daddy," her voice cracked. "I got your message. The one you sent before. I want you to know something." Cole didn't move, didn't respond. "I forgive you," Lily whispered, "for staying away. Mom told me why. She said you were protecting us. She said that's what daddies do." Sarah's vision blurred. "I kept your bear," Lily continued. "The big one you gave me. I sleep with it every night. I pretend it's you giving me a hug." A tear slid down the little girl's cheek. "Please wake up, Daddy. Please, I want a real hug." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Cole's fingers moved, just slightly, just enough to curl around Lily's hand. The little girl gasped. Karen rushed forward. Sarah pressed her hand to her mouth. Cole's eyes opened. "Lily." His voice was barely a whisper, broken and raw, but full of something Sarah recognized, the same thing she'd seen in Daniel's eyes every time he looked at her. Love, pure and unconditional and worth dying for. "Daddy?" Lily threw herself against his chest. Cole groaned, but his arms came up anyway, wrapping around his daughter, holding her like he would never let go. "I'm here," he whispered. "I'm here, baby. I'm not going anywhere, not anymore." Karen was crying. Lily was crying. Even the nurse who had appeared in the doorway was crying. Sarah slipped out of the room. She found a quiet corner of the hallway and leaned against the wall. Her hand found her belly, felt her own child moving inside her. "Your daddy was like that," she whispered. "He would have held you just like that." The baby kicked. Sarah smiled through her tears. Daniel was gone. Nothing would ever change that. But something had shifted tonight. Something had healed. His death had meaning now. His sacrifice had purpose. And somewhere in that room down the hall, a little girl had her father back. That was enough. For now, that was enough. 3 days passed before Cole could sit up without help. Sarah visited every morning, bringing coffee she knew he couldn't drink and updates she knew he needed to hear. Shadow came with her on the second day, cleared by the veterinary staff, his limp barely noticeable as he padded into Cole's room and stationed himself beside the bed. "He won't leave," Sarah said, watching the German shepherd settle into position. "Even when I try to take him home." Cole's hand found Shadow's head. "Smart dog. Knows when a man needs backup. He knows when someone's worth protecting." Cole looked at her. The color had returned to his face, but his eyes still carried shadows. 4 bullets would do that to a man. 4 bullets and the weight of everything that came before. "Reeves called this morning," he said. "I know. She called me too." "Did she tell you about the raids?" Sarah nodded. Her throat tightened. 237 children, recovered from 4 locations across 3 states. 237. Cole repeated the number like a prayer. Daniel found most of those locations. His files led them straight there. "I know. He saved them, Sarah. Even after everything, he saved them." Sarah couldn't speak. She just nodded. Cole reached for her hand. His grip was weak, but warm. "I need you to understand something," he said. "What happened on that mountain? What you did. It wasn't just about saving me." "Cole, let me finish." His eyes held hers. "I've been doing this work for 14 years. Black Ops. Classified missions. Things I can't talk about and probably never will. But nothing I've ever done mattered as much as what happened in that cabin. You were half dead. I did what anyone would do." "No." Cole's voice hardened. "You did what almost no one would do. You had every reason to turn me away. Pregnant, alone, a stranger bleeding on your floor. And you didn't just save my life. You got me to Miller's Ridge. You found Daniel's files. You fought when you could have run." Sarah pulled her hand back. "I didn't have a choice." "Everyone has a choice." Cole held her gaze. "You chose to fight. Same choice Daniel made. Same choice that got him killed. Don't. I'm not trying to hurt you." His voice softened. "I'm trying to thank you. For everything. For not giving up. For being exactly who your husband knew you were." Sarah's eyes burned. "He used to say that I was stronger than I thought." He was right. The door opened. Karen appeared, Lily trailing behind her, clutching the massive stuffed bear Cole had given her 3 years ago. "Sorry to interrupt," Karen said. "Lily wanted to show her dad something." "Show me what baby—" Lily approached the bed carefully, like she still couldn't quite believe her father was real. She held up a piece of paper covered in crayon drawings. "I made this for you, at school, before I knew you were hurt." Cole took the paper. His jaw tightened. The drawing showed 3 figures: a man in a uniform, a little girl with brown hair, a big brown bear. "That's you and me and Mr. Snuggles," Lily explained. "I drew it on the day you called, the day you said you missed me." Cole's eyes glistened. "It's beautiful, Lily." "Teacher asked who the man was. I said my daddy. She asked where you lived." Lily's voice wavered. "I didn't know. I just said far away." "I'm sorry, baby. Are you going to go far away again?" Cole looked at Karen. She gave him a small nod. "No," he said. "I'm not going anywhere. Not anymore." Lily's face crumpled. She climbed onto the bed, careful of the tubes and wires, and buried her face in her father's chest. "Promise, I promise." Sarah slipped out of the room, shadow following at her heels. Some moments weren't meant for witnesses. In the hallway, she found Reeves waiting. "How is he?" "Better." Sarah leaned against the wall. "His daughter's in there now." "Good. He needs something to fight for that isn't classified." Reeves handed her a folder. "This is for you." Sarah opened it. Her breath caught. Daniel's official service record stared back at her. But the status had changed. Instead of training accident, the cause of death now read killed in action line of duty. "We pushed through the reclassification this morning," Reeves said. "Based on Wade's testimony and Daniel's files, we were able to prove he was conducting an authorized undercover investigation at the time of his death." Sarah's hands trembled. "Killed in action." "There's more." Reeves turned the page. "The president is awarding Daniel the Medal of Honor, posthumously, for extraordinary bravery in the face of enemy action." The folder slipped from Sarah's fingers. "The ceremony is next month. Pentagon. Full honors." Reeves paused. "You'll need to be there, to accept it on his behalf." Sarah couldn't breathe. Her vision blurred, her knees buckled. Reeves caught her. "Easy. Easy. He's not a training accident anymore." Sarah's voice broke. "He's not just another name on a list. He never was." Reeves held her steady. "But now the world will know it." Sarah wept. Standing in a hospital hallway surrounded by strangers, she finally let herself grieve the way she'd needed to since the day they told her Daniel was gone. Not for the loss, for the vindication. Her husband was a hero. And now everyone would know. The days that followed moved in a blur of interviews and statements and quiet moments of healing. Sarah gave her testimony to federal investigators 4 times. Each session lasted hours. Each time she told the same story: the storm, the stranger, the cabin, the fight. "You killed 3 men," the lead investigator said during the final interview. "Shot 2. Your dog took down the 3rd. They were trying to kill us. I'm not questioning your actions, Mrs. Morgan. I'm just documenting them." He made a note. "For the record, all 3 deaths have been ruled justified. Self-defense." Sarah nodded. She didn't feel justified. She felt hollow. "One more question." The investigator leaned forward. "Sheriff Marcus Wade claims you threatened to kill him during the standoff. Is that accurate?" Sarah thought about it. About standing in that shed with a rifle in her hands, looking at the man who had helped murder her husband. "I told him if I was going to die, I was taking him with me." That's not quite the same thing. No, it isn't. The investigator studied her for a long moment. Then he closed his file. Thank you for your cooperation, Mrs. Morgan. And for what it's worth, thank you for what you did. Those children are alive because of you. Sarah didn't respond. She just walked out. Cole was discharged 2 weeks after the surgery. Sarah picked him up from the hospital, shadow riding shotgun, Lily bouncing in the back seat. Karen had agreed to let Lily stay with Cole during his recovery. A trial period, she'd called it. A second chance. Where are we going? Cole asked as Sarah pulled out of the parking lot. Home. Your home? It's the only one standing. Sarah kept her eyes on the road. The cabin was destroyed in the fire. Insurance won't cover it because of the circumstances. Sarah, I can't. You can, and you will. Her voice left no room for argument. You saved my life. You gave me back my husband's truth. The least I can do is give you a bed while you heal. Cole was silent for a moment. Then, thank you. Don't thank me yet. The guest room hasn't been cleaned in months. From the back seat, Lily giggled. Daddy, she's funny. Cole smiled. Really smiled for the first time since the mountain. Yeah, baby, she is. The new cabin was smaller than the one Sarah had lost. A rental property on the outskirts of Silver Ridge owned by a sympathetic neighbor who had refused to take payment. Your husband helped my son get into the Rangers, the old man had said. Consider it even. Sarah had tried to argue. The old man wouldn't hear it. Now she pulled into the driveway, watching Cole's face as he took in his temporary home. It's not much, she said. It's perfect. Lily was out of the car before Sarah could stop her. She ran toward the porch, then froze. Daddy, there's another dog. Sarah's heart stopped. On the porch sat a German shepherd. Young, maybe 2 years old, with a sleek black and tan coat and intelligent eyes that tracked every movement. A man stood beside the dog. Military bearing, crisp uniform, colonel's eagles on his collar. Commander Mitchell. The man stepped forward. I'm Colonel James Porter, United States Special Operations Command. Cole tensed. Colonel. At ease. I'm not here in an official capacity. Porter gestured to the dog. This is Ranger, retired military working dog. Handler was killed in action 6 months ago. He's been waiting for a new assignment. I don't understand. Agent Reeves told me what happened on that mountain. What you did. What Mrs. Morgan's dog did. Porter's voice softened. Shadow's getting old. Won't be able to work much longer. I thought you might want some backup for when that day comes. Sarah's hand found Shadow's head. The old dog leaned against her leg, watching the younger shepherd with what might have been approval. Colonel, I can't accept. You can and you will. Porter smiled slightly. Consider it a gift from grateful nation, one that owes you more than it can ever repay. Ranger rose and padded toward Cole. He stopped at the base of the porch steps and sat waiting. Cole looked at the dog, at Porter, at Sarah. Well, Sarah said, are you going to leave him sitting there? Cole walked down the steps. His movement was still careful, still pained, but stronger than it had been a week ago. He knelt in front of Ranger. The dog's tail wagged once. Hey, boy. Cole's voice cracked. You looking for a job? Ranger's tongue found his face. Cole laughed a broken sound that turned into something like a sob. Lily ran forward and threw her arms around both of them. Daddy, we have a dog. We have a real dog. Porter caught Sarah's eye and nodded once. Then he walked to his car and drove away. Sarah watched him go, one hand on Shadow's head, the other on her belly. Something had shifted. Something had healed. It wasn't over. Not yet. But for the first time in 18 months, she believed it could be. The trial began 6 weeks later. Captain Raymond Vance sat at the defense table, his uniform stripped of rank insignia, his face a mask of cold fury. Beside him, a team of military lawyers shuffled papers and whispered strategies. Across the aisle, the prosecution had assembled a wall of evidence. Photographs, financial records, testimony from Wade and 3 other cooperating witnesses, and Daniel's files. All of them, projected on a screen for the world to see. Sarah sat in the gallery shadow at her feet, watching as the woman she'd married testified from beyond the grave. The deceased Captain Daniel Morgan spent nearly 2 years infiltrating the trafficking operation, the prosecutor explained to the jury. His files document every transaction, every shipment, every child. On the screen, Daniel's handwriting filled the margins of surveillance photos. Notes, questions, theories that had proven true. Captain Morgan was murdered when he got too close to the truth, but his evidence survived. And because of that evidence, 237 children are alive today. Vance's face remained impassive, but Sarah saw his hands trembling beneath the table. Cole testified on the 3rd day. He walked to the stand, slowly, his injuries still healing, but his voice was steady as he recounted everything. The discovery, the evidence, the ambush, the mountain. "Commander Mitchell," the prosecutor asked, "why did you risk your life to expose this operation?" Cole was silent for a moment. His eyes found Sarah in the gallery. "Because I have a daughter," he said. "And every one of those children belongs to someone who loves them, someone who would do anything to bring them home." "Did you ever consider giving up?" "No. Even when you were shot. Even when you were dying. Especially then." Cole's voice hardened. "Because if I died, the truth died with me. And those children would still be in cages." The jury delivered their verdict in less than 4 hours. Guilty, on all counts. When the judge pronounced the sentence life without parole, Vance finally broke. He screamed accusations, pointed fingers, swore revenge against everyone who had betrayed him. Guards dragged him from the courtroom, still raging. Sarah watched him go and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no triumph, just a quiet certainty that justice had been served. In the hallway outside, Reeves found her. "It's done," the agent said. "Vance, Wade, 47 other defendants across 6 states, all convicted or awaiting trial. And the children reunited with their families when possible, in foster care when not." Reeves paused. "We've set up a fund to help them. Therapy, education, whatever they need." Daniel would have liked that. Daniel made it possible. Reeves handed her an envelope. "This is for you, from the families." Sarah opened it. Inside were letters, dozens of them, handwritten notes from parents who had gotten their children back. "Thank you," one read. "You gave me my daughter. I will never forget." "God bless you," said another. "You are an angel." "My son asks about the lady with the dog. He says she saved him. I tell him she did." Sarah couldn't read anymore. Her vision blurred too badly. "They want to meet you," Reeves said. "Some of them. When you're ready." "I don't know if I'll ever be ready." "That's okay. They'll wait." The Medal of Honor ceremony took place on a cold February morning. Sarah stood in a Pentagon conference room, surrounded by generals and politicians and reporters, wearing a black dress that strained across her enormous belly. Beside her, Cole stood at attention. Shadow and Ranger sat at their feet, matching harnesses declaring them service dogs. The president approached with a small blue box in his hands. Captain Daniel Morgan gave his life in defense of the innocent, the president said, his voice carrying across the room. He uncovered an evil that others refused to see, and he fought it until his last breath. Today, we honor his sacrifice. He opened the box. The Medal of Honor gleamed against blue velvet. Mrs. Morgan, please accept this on behalf of your husband. Sarah's hands trembled as she took the medal. It was heavier than she expected, heavier than it had any right to be. Thank you, she whispered. No. The president met her eyes. Thank you. What you did on that mountain finished what your husband started. You're both heroes. Sarah looked down at the medal, at the star, at the ribbon, at the proof that Daniel hadn't died for nothing. He knew, she said quietly. Somehow he knew this day would come. The president nodded. The best ones always do. After the ceremony, Karen approached with Lily. That was beautiful, Karen said. Your husband must have been an incredible man. He was. Lily tugged on Sarah's dress. Mrs. Sarah. Sarah crouched down, one hand supporting her belly. Yes, sweetheart. Is your husband in heaven? Sarah's throat tightened. I think so. My daddy says your husband was brave, like a superhero. Your daddy's right, Lily smiled. I'm glad my daddy didn't go to heaven too. I would have missed him. Sarah looked up at Cole, standing a few feet away, watching them with an expression she couldn't quite read. I'm glad too, Lily. Very glad. The ride home was quiet. Cole drove, while Sarah sat in the passenger seat, the medal box clutched in her hands. Shadow and Ranger occupied the back seat, Lily wedged between them, already asleep. You okay? Cole asked. I don't know. Sarah stared out the window. It doesn't feel real, any of it. It will, eventually. How do you know? Cole was silent for a moment. Then, after Kandahar, they gave me a silver star. I didn't feel anything for months. Thought maybe I never would. What changed? I realized the medal wasn't for me. It was for everyone who needed to believe that sacrifice means something. He glanced at her. Daniel's medal is the same. It's not for you. It's for every parent who got their child back, every kid who survived, every person who needed proof that good can still win. Sarah looked down at the box. When did you get so wise? Almost dying gives you perspective. She laughed. It surprised her. She hadn't laughed in weeks. What? Cole asked. Nothing. Just Daniel would have liked you. Yeah. You're both impossible. In exactly the same way. Cole smiled. The tension in the car eased. Ahead, the mountains rose against the darkening sky. Home. Whatever that meant now. 3 weeks later, Sarah went into labor. It started at 2 a.m, a sharp pain that ripped through her sleep and left her gasping. She reached for her phone, but her hands were shaking too badly to dial. Cole! Her voice cracked. Cole! Footsteps thundered down the hallway. Cole burst through her door. Ranger at his heels, his face tight with alarm. Is it? Yes. Sarah gripped the headboard, riding out another contraction. It's time. Cole didn't hesitate. He scooped her up like she weighed nothing, ignoring the pull of his half-healed wounds, and carried her to the car. Lily, he called over his shoulder. Wake up. We're going to the hospital. The drive took forever, and no time at all. Sarah gripped Cole's hand so hard she thought she might break it. He didn't complain, just drove faster. You're doing great, he said. Just breathe. I know how to breathe. Then keep doing it. They reached the hospital as dawn broke over the mountains. Nurses met them at the entrance, transferring Sarah to a wheelchair, rushing her toward the delivery room. I can't do this, Sarah gasped as another contraction hit. I can't. Yes, you can. Cole kept pace beside her, his hand still in hers. You survived a firefight with cartel soldiers. You can do anything. That was different. How? I had a gun. Cole laughed, actually laughed right there in the hospital corridor while Sarah screamed through another contraction. You're insane, she gasped. So I've been told. The delivery took 6 hours. Cole stayed the entire time. He held her hand through every contraction, wiped her forehead. When she was drenched in sweat, whispered encouragement when she wanted to give up. Push, the doctor ordered. One more time. Sarah screamed, her body convulsed. Everything went white. And then, cutting through the pain and exhaustion, a new sound. A baby crying. It's a boy, the doctor announced. Healthy, strong, perfect. They placed him on Sarah's chest. A tiny, red, squalling miracle. Sarah looked down at her son, at his scrunched face and flailing fists, at the new life she and Daniel had created together. Hi, she whispered. Hi, baby. The baby's cries softened. His eyes opened, blue like Daniel's had been. You look just like your daddy. Cole stood beside the bed, tears streaming down his face. Lily had arrived at some point, Karen too, but Sarah barely noticed. The whole world had narrowed to the tiny person in her arms. What's his name? The nurse asked. Sarah had known for months, had decided the night she found Daniel's files, the night she understood why he'd died. Daniel, she said. Daniel Cole Morgan. Cole's breath caught. Sarah, you don't have to. I want to. She looked up at him. You gave me back my husband's truth. You almost died protecting it. My son will carry your name because you earned it. Cole couldn't speak. He just nodded, tears still falling. Lily climbed onto the bed, careful not to jostle the baby. Can I see? Sarah tilted the baby toward her. Lily, meet Daniel. Hi, Daniel. Lily touched his tiny hand with one finger. I'm going to be your big sister. Sort of. Is that okay? The baby's fingers closed around hers. I think that's a yes, Karen said softly. Sarah looked around the room. At Cole. At Karen. At Lily. At Shadow and Ranger, somehow both present despite hospital rules lying together by the door. This wasn't the family she'd planned. Wasn't the future Daniel had promised her. But it was real. It was hers. And it was enough. Welcome to the world, Daniel, she whispered. You're going to be loved. So very, very loved. The baby sighed against her chest. Outside, the sun rose over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold. 6 months changed everything and nothing. Sarah stood at the window of her new cabin watching the sunrise paint the mountains in shades of gold and rose. Baby Daniel slept in the crook of her arm, his tiny chest rising and falling with the rhythm of perfect peace. Behind her, Shadow lifted his head from his bed by the wood stove. His muzzle had gone almost completely gray, now his movements slower, his breathing heavier. But his eyes still tracked every sound, every shadow, every potential threat. Easy, boy, Sarah whispered. It's just another morning. Shadow's tail thumped once. He settled back down, his gaze shifting to Ranger, who lay beside him like a shadow of his younger self. The back door opened. Cole walked in, stomping snow from his boots, Lily trailing behind him with cheeks flushed red from cold. "Daddy says we can build a snowman after breakfast," Lily announced. "A really big one." "Did he now?" Cole caught Sarah's eye and shrugged. "She's persuasive. She's 7. You're 36. And she's still more persuasive than any interrogator I've ever faced." Sarah laughed. The sound still surprised her sometimes. After everything, laughter felt like a gift she hadn't earned. "Coffee's ready," she said. "Karen's coming by later to pick up Lily." Cole's expression flickered, just for a moment. "She called last night, and she wants to talk about us." He glanced at Lily, who had already moved on to petting Ranger. "About making things official again." Sarah's heart skipped. "What did you tell her?" "That I needed to think about it." "Cole, I know." He ran a hand through his hair. "I know what I should do. What Lily needs. What makes sense." "But—" Cole looked at her. Really looked the way he had that first night in the cabin when she was digging bullets out of his body. "But I'm not the same man who left her 3 years ago. I don't know if I can be what she remembers." Sarah shifted Daniel to her other arm. "You don't have to be what she remembers. You just have to be who you are now." "And who is that someone worth knowing?" Sarah held his gaze. "Someone worth loving." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning neither of them was ready to name. Lily's voice broke the moment. "Daddy Ranger's doing that thing again." Cole turned away, but not before Sarah saw something shift in his eyes. They weren't ready. Not yet, maybe not ever. But someday wasn't the same as never. The dedication ceremony happened on the first warm day of spring. Half the town of Silver Ridge gathered at the ranger station, where a bronze plaque now bore Daniel's name. Sarah stood at the front of the crowd, baby Daniel, in a carrier on her chest, shadow pressed against her leg. Cole stood beside her. Lily held his hand. Karen stood on his other side, close but not touching. The mayor spoke first. Then the fire chief. Then Agent Reeves, who had flown in from Washington specifically for the occasion. "Captain Daniel Morgan wasn't just a soldier," Reeves said, her voice carrying across the assembled crowd. "He was a guardian, a protector, a man who saw evil and refused to look away." Sarah's vision blurred. She felt Cole's hand find hers and squeeze. "Today we honor his memory by dedicating this station in his name. But the true memorial to Daniel Morgan isn't bronze or stone. It's the 237 children who are alive because of his sacrifice. It's the families who have been reunited. It's the future he made possible." Reeves stepped back. The cloth covering the plaque fell away. "Daniel Morgan Ranger Station, in honor of a hero who gave everything for those who could not protect themselves." Sarah walked forward. Her hand trembled as she touched the cold metal. "Hey, Daniel," she whispered. "Look what we did." Baby Daniel gurgled in his carrier. His tiny hand reached toward the plaque, fingers stretching. Sarah smiled through her tears. "That's your daddy's name. Someday I'll tell you all about him." Behind her, Shadow let out a soft whine. Sarah turned to find the old German shepherd struggling to his feet, his body trembling with the effort. "Shadow, what is it, boy?" The dog limped forward, each step clearly costing him. He stopped beside Sarah and looked up at the plaque with those ancient amber eyes. Then he sat. Straight and tall the way he used to sit when Daniel came home from deployment. Sarah's breath caught. "You remember him?" she whispered. "After all this time, you still remember." Shadow's tail wagged. Once. Weak but deliberate. Cole knelt beside the dog, one hand on his shoulder. "He served with Daniel, didn't he? In Afghanistan. 6 years. They were partners. Sarah's voice cracked. Shadow was with him the day he proposed to me, the day we got married, the day— She couldn't finish. Cole understood. He's been waiting. All this time. Waiting for Daniel to come home. But Daniel's not coming home. No. Cole looked at the plaque, at Shadow, at Sarah. But his legacy is, every day, in every life he saved. Shadow's head lowered. He pressed his nose against the base of the plaque and let out a long, mournful sound. The crowd fell silent. Even baby Daniel stopped squirming. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then Ranger appeared at Shadow's side. The younger dog lay down beside the older one, pressing their bodies together. Shadow's whine faded. His tail wagged again. "He's not alone," Lily whispered. "He's got a friend now." Cole pulled his daughter close. "Yeah, baby, he does." Sarah knelt beside both dogs, her hand finding Shadow's fur. "It's okay," she said softly. "You can rest now, boy. You kept him safe. You kept all of us safe. It's okay to rest." Shadow's eyes met hers. Something passed between them. Understanding. Gratitude. Peace. The old dog's head lowered onto his paws, and Sarah knew with a certainty that went beyond words that their time together was measured in days, now not months. She held him tighter and let the tears fall. Shadow passed 3 weeks later. He went quietly in his sleep, lying on the bed Sarah had made for him by the wood stove. Ranger was beside him when she found them in the morning, the younger dog's head resting on Shadow's still chest. Sarah didn't scream, didn't cry. Not at first. She just sat down beside him and placed her hand on his fur. Still warm, still soft, still carrying the scent of mountain air and gunpowder and home. "Good boy," she whispered. "Such a good boy." The tears came later, in waves, in floods. In the quiet hours after the funeral, when the cabin felt emptier than it had since Daniel died. Cole found her on the porch at midnight, wrapped in a blanket, staring at nothing. "Sarah." I knew it was coming. Her voice was hollow. He was old. He was tired. I knew. Knowing doesn't make it easier. "No." She pulled the blanket tighter. "It doesn't." Cole sat down beside her. Close, but not touching. Present, but not pressing. "He was there when I found Daniel's body," Sarah said, after a long silence. "Did I ever tell you that— No. The helicopter went down in the mountains. Search and rescue found him 3 days later." Her voice cracked. "Shadow wouldn't leave the site. He'd escaped from our yard, tracked Daniel's scent for 20 miles. When they found the wreckage, Shadow was lying beside him." Cole's breath caught. "Sarah. That's how I knew. Before they told me. Before anyone called." She wiped her eyes. "I saw Shadow come home alone, and I knew. He loved Daniel. He loved all of us." Sarah looked at the empty bed through the window. "He saved your life. Twice. Once on the mountain, once in the shed." "I know. He was the best of us, Cole. The best part of everything we lost." Cole was quiet for a moment. "Then, can I show you something?" He pulled out his phone. On the screen was a photograph. Shadow and Ranger lying together, heads touching, tails intertwined. "I took this last week," Cole said, "while you were putting Daniel down for his nap." Sarah stared at the image. "They look like father and son." Cole's voice was soft. Shadow spent his last months teaching Ranger everything he knew: how to guard, how to protect, how to love. You think Ranger learned? I know he did. Cole pocketed the phone. Shadow's not gone, Sarah. Not really. Everything he was lives on in that dog, in your son, in the children who are alive because of what he helped us do. Sarah looked up at the stars. Daniel used to name them for her, making up constellations when he couldn't remember the real ones. Daniel believed in heaven, she said quietly. He used to say all dogs go there, that God needs them to guard the gates. Maybe he was right. Maybe. Sarah finally smiled. Small, sad, but real. I like to think they're together now. Daniel and Shadow, guarding the gates, watching over us. Cole reached over and took her hand. This time she didn't pull away. Summer brought healing. Sarah returned to work with Search and Rescue Ranger at her side. The young German shepherd had inherited Shadow's instincts, his courage, his impossible determination. On their first mission together, Ranger tracked a lost hiker through 12 miles of wilderness in under 4 hours. He's got his daddy's nose, Sarah told Cole that night, scratching behind Ranger's ears. And his heart. Cole had started consulting for the DEA. Nothing dangerous, background checks, training protocols, the kind of work that kept him close to home and close to Lily. Karen filed the papers last week, he told Sarah one evening while Lily played with baby Daniel in the yard. The divorce papers? Yeah. Cole's voice was neutral, careful. It's official now. Sarah set down her coffee cup. How do you feel about that? Relieved. He surprised himself with the honesty. I loved her once. Part of me always will. But we're not the same people anymore. Does Lily understand? Better than we expected. Cole watched his daughter through the window, her laughter carrying across the yard. She said she's glad her parents are happy, even if they're not happy together. Smart kid. Too smart. Cole turned to face Sarah. She asked me something this morning. What? If you were going to be her new mom. Sarah's breath caught. Cole? I told her it wasn't that simple, that you and I are friends, that we care about each other, but what? Cole met her eyes. But I didn't know how you felt, about any of it. The silence stretched between them. Baby Daniel squealed outside. Lily laughed. Sarah reached across the table and took Cole's hand. I don't know what I feel, she said slowly. Part of me still belongs to Daniel. Part of me always will. I understand. No. Let me finish. She squeezed his hand. Part of me belongs to Daniel, but part of me is still here, still alive, still capable of... She trailed off. Of what? Of feeling something new. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. Something I didn't expect. Something I wasn't looking for. Cole's thumb traced circles on her palm. Neither was I. This is crazy. We barely know each other. We survived a firefight together. We saved each other's lives. We've been living under the same roof for 6 months. Cole's voice softened. I think we know each other better than most people ever do. Sarah looked at their joined hands, at Lily and Daniel playing outside, at Ranger lying on the porch watching over all of them. I'm scared, she admitted. Me too. What if it doesn't work? Then we'll still be friends, still be family. Cole lifted her hand and kissed her knuckles. But what if it does? Sarah didn't answer, not with words. She leaned across the table and kissed him. Fall came with change. Cole moved into the main cabin. Officially. His room became Lily's room. His things mingled with Sarah's until you couldn't tell where one life ended and the other began. Baby Daniel took his first steps on a crisp October morning, lurching across the living room into Cole's waiting arms. "That's it, buddy." Cole lifted him high. "You did it." Sarah captured the moment on video, tears streaming down her face. Daniel would be so proud. He is proud. Cole settled the baby on his hip. Wherever he is, he's proud. Lily had started calling Sarah Mama Sarah, without anyone suggesting it. The first time she said it, Sarah had to leave the room so no one would see her cry. "Is it okay?" Lily had asked later, suddenly worried. "I can stop if you don't like it." "It's more than okay." Sarah had pulled the girl into a fierce hug. "It's perfect." The wedding happened on the anniversary of the night they met. Small, simple, just family and a few close friends gathered on Miller's Ridge at the spot where Daniel had proposed so many years ago. Sarah wore white. Cole wore his dress uniform, the one he'd thought he'd never put on again. Reeves officiated. She'd been ordained online specifically for the occasion. "Dearly beloved," she began, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "We are gathered here today to witness something miraculous. Not just a marriage, but a resurrection. Two people who found each other in the darkest possible circumstances and chose light." Sarah's hands trembled in Cole's grip. His thumbs traced reassuring circles on her wrists. "Sarah Morgan, you are the bravest woman I have ever known. You faced impossible odds and refused to surrender. You saved a stranger's life because it was right, not because it was safe. You honored your husband's memory by finishing what he started." Sarah's vision blurred. She saw Daniel's face smiling, approving, at peace. "Cole Mitchell, you are a warrior who learned to be a healer. You carried a burden no one should have to bear, and you bore it with grace. You found redemption not in victory, but in love." Cole's jaw tightened. His eyes never left Sarah's. "Do you, Sarah, take Cole to be your husband, to love and cherish in sickness and in health, for as long as you both shall live?" "I do." "And do you, Cole, take Sarah to be your wife, to love and cherish in sickness and in health, for as long as you both shall live?" "I do." "Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife." Reeves grinned. "You may kiss the bride." But Cole's lips met Sarah's, and the world fell away. Lily cheered. Baby Daniel clapped his hands. Ranger barked. And somewhere Sarah could have sworn she heard Shadow's tail thumping against the ground. Winter returned, but this time it brought no fear. Sarah sat by the fire, baby Daniel asleep in her lap, watching Cole read to Lily from a book about brave knights and loyal dogs. And the knight knew that courage wasn't about never being afraid, Cole read. It was about being afraid and fighting anyway. "Like you, Daddy?" Lily asked. "Like all of us." Cole glanced at Sarah. "Like Mama Sarah when she found me in the snow. And like Shadow, especially like Shadow." Lily snuggled closer. "I miss him." "Me too, baby. Me too." Outside, snow fell softly. Ranger lay on the porch keeping watch the way Shadow had taught him, the way Shadow had kept watch his whole life. Sarah looked at her family. Her impossible, beautiful, unexpected family. A year ago, she had been alone, pregnant, grieving, certain that the best part of her life had ended when Daniel died. Now she had a husband who loved her, a daughter who called her Mama, a son who carried forward everything Daniel had been, and she had the truth. Finally, after all this time, Daniel hadn't died in a training accident. He had died a hero. His name was cleared, his sacrifice honored his legacy, preserved for their son to inherit. 237 children were alive because of him, because of Cole, because of Shadow, because she had opened her door to a stranger dying in the snow. Mama Sarah. Lily's voice pulled her from her thoughts. Yes, sweetheart. Do you think Shadow is watching us right now, from heaven? Sarah looked at the fire, at the snow, at the faces of everyone she loved. I know he is, she said. Him and Daniel both. Are they happy? Very happy. Sarah smiled. Because we're happy. And that's all they ever wanted. Lily nodded satisfied and turned back to the book. Cole caught Sarah's eye across the room. He mouthed 3 words. I love you. She mouthed them back. I love you too. The fire crackled. The snow fell. The world turned. And in a cabin in the Colorado mountains, a family that had been built from tragedy and forged in courage settled into the quiet miracle of an ordinary evening. Sometimes grace doesn't arrive with thunder or lightning. Sometimes it crawls through a blizzard barely breathing and collapses at your door. What matters isn't how it arrives. What matters is what you do when it knocks. Sarah Morgan chose mercy. Cole Mitchell chose truth. Shadow chose loyalty. And from those 3 choices, something beautiful was born. Not perfection. Not a fairy tale ending. Just love. Real. Messy. Hard-won. Precious. The kind of love worth fighting for. The kind of love worth dying for. The kind of love that changes everything. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs hope today. Leave a comment and tell us where you're watching from. And remember, even in the darkest winter, grace can find its way to your door. You just have to be brave enough to open it.